Hello, and welcome aboard the USS Voyager. My name is Bracken, and I'm here to acquaint you with your ship and your role as the navigation and con officer or officers aboard this ship. You are responsible for piloting the vessel, setting and calculating course trajectories, and engaging and disengaging the engines of our ship. You are tasked with making sure the ship gets to its location in the same condition as you got it in. You'll be responsible for navigating the ship through tight quarters as well, such as asteroid fields, Oort clouds, ice fields, or other debris. Reflex and Know-How are your middle names. The bridge is located on Deck 12. You are serving there because you are the best and brightest on the ship, and your captain trusts you. Your job is vital to the success of your mission, and I want to train you to be the very best. As I go through this training, please follow along with the instructions I give you. If there are two of you, each of you have your own computer. Follow along with everything that I say to follow along with, whether it's at your computer or not. You both need to learn both stations. If you're alone, you definitely need to learn both stations, but if there are two of you, you may need to learn the other station just in case the worst should happen and your partner is incapacitated. It is very important that you listen to what I'm teaching you, so that when the time comes, you can accomplish your tasks without my help. So as I ask you to click, type, or do, follow along exactly so that you can see these important effects as we go through your training. And if you ever start to fall behind, you can pause this training at any time so that you can catch up to what I'm talking about. As we move through, there will be several times that I ask you to type in information. If you need extra time to type anything in, please pause this training so that you do not get lost as I move ahead. I'm going to repeat that one more time so you understand how important it is. If you need extra time to type anything in when you're told to type, immediately pause your training so that you don't get lost when I move on. When you're finished typing, you can then press play so that your training resumes. A couple more things I want to cover before we get started. A field is a box where you can type information in. You may already have known that, but it is important that you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a field. Anytime I'm talking about a field, I am talking about the blank space where you can type in a box on your screen. Also, if at any time you need help during this training, or you feel undeniably confused and cannot figure out what's going on by yourself, you should pause your training and then raise your hand, and one of our staff members will come to assist you. Do not forget to pause before you raise your hand. Now that we've got those basics out of the way, the very first thing we need to do is log into your station to gain access. In order to do that, we need to go to the bottom right corner of your screen and enter your name where it says Officer Login, and type your name into the empty field there. If there are two of you, log in to your respective computers. If it's just one of you, log in to both. This is the last time I'll mention this, but if you need extra time to type, please pause your training and enter your name and restart when you're done. Now that your name is typed in, simply click the Login button directly below the field. This will give you access to the station. Before we do anything else, let's take a look at the widgets across the top center of your screen. If there are two of you, both of you can do this on your respective computers at the same time. If it's just one of you, pick which computer you want to start with. These widgets were designed to make yours and everyone else's job easier. The very first widget looks like a pink square with a pencil. If you hover over it, the words Long Range Message Composer appear, telling you what the widget is. This widget will allow us to craft and send a long-range message. Let's go ahead and do that now. Click on the Long Range Message Composer widget if you haven't already. A box will appear. At the top, you'll notice that once again we have the name of the widget, Long Range Message Composer. And then we have an empty to field and an empty body field. Long-range messages are similar to email. Because Voyager is often sent off into the vast darkness of space, she needed a way for her crew to transmit messages to Terran Space Command and also their families. It can get quite lonely out in the middle of space. This widget is available on every computer in the ship, and allows any crew member to send any messages to anyone as long as they have the right address. We're going to send a long-range message to Terran Space Command, so go ahead and type that into the To field. Then, in the body of the message, type in "This is a test." Don't worry too much about spelling because the computer can fix that automatically after the message is sent in most cases. Now that we have our message typed, all we need to do is click Q for sending, which is right below the field you typed "This is a test" into. Once you've clicked that, your message is going to the review stage and will be sent if it's approved. The counterintelligence officer or officers review all outgoing communications to ensure that no sensitive information is being sent. The next widget is the calculator widget. It's right next to the long-range message composer. Go ahead and click on that to pull that up. If you ever need a calculator to quickly perform any math function, you can pull this calculator up. Go ahead and click the close button to exit now. Next to the calculator is your objectives widget. Go ahead and click on it. This will allow you to see your mission objectives as you progress throughout your mission. You'll notice there is nothing in there right now. That's because we are in training. You can check this, however, during your mission. Go ahead and click the close button to exit now. Next is the officer's log. The officer's log is a great place to take notes of happenings in your mission or keep a journal of things that have happened or that you've been told so that you can remember them in critical situations. One of my heroes, Quincy Lewis, taught me at an early age that if you don't write it down, you won't remember it when you need it. Not only is that true on your mission today, but is a great take-home lesson. Writing things down activates multiple centers of your brain and causes the memory to be recalled more effectively than when it's just heard. Use this to keep track of the various aspects of your mission. To enter something into the log, simply click the Start Log button. This will open a field on the right side of the window. If you click in the empty field, you can now type. Because we're in training, the log will be reset, so we're not going to type anything too exciting here. Just type in "We are in training" and then click Save. Once you click Save, you'll notice how the log appears on the left-hand side. As you add entries, you'll be able to go back through and see any entry you've created. Use this throughout your mission to guarantee your success. You may now close that window. The next widget is the messaging widget. This allows you to instantly message anyone on the bridge and occasionally people on other decks depending on what you're doing at your station. For now, I just want to teach you how to use this. It is important to note that this isn't a toy. This is critical for mission success. It's for critical mission information only. Its purpose is to allow nonverbal communication to other crew members so that it stays relatively quiet on the bridge. This will allow the captain to hear everything that's going on, instead of the bridge becoming littered with side conversations that are distracting and make it difficult to hear things. It will also allow you to work quickly and efficiently on what you are doing without having to get up and run between stations. Let's send a message right now to the Command Monitor station. To do this, click New Message. Once you've done this, find Command Monitor in the list. Once you've found it, click on it, and you'll notice on the right-hand side where it says Messages, it now says Conversation with Command Monitor. Now all you have to do is type a message in the empty field next to where it says Send Message. The message we'll type right now is going to once again say, "This is a test." Once you have that typed in, go ahead and hit the Send Message button. When you do, you will see that it says your station name and then your message. Make sure you check back after you've sent a message to see if you've received a response. If and when they respond, it will show their station name and the message. You may now close out of this screen by clicking the Close button. The next widget is the Training widget. If ever in the middle of your mission you feel like you don't remember how to do something, clicking on that widget will help you understand what's going on a specific screen. It will give you a refresher course on how the various aspects of that screen work. You may close out of this, if you've clicked it, by selecting the X in the top left corner. The last widget is the logout widget. You should only log out of your station if you feel like the bridge is going to be taken over and don't want the enemy to have access to your computer. Now that we've explored the widgets, let's take a look at the technology you control at the stations themselves. We'll start with the navigation station. If you move your mouse to the left side of the screen where there are several buttons, you'll notice that when you hover over a button, word appears next to them. This tells you which screens you have access to. We want to click on the one called Navigation for now. Go ahead and click that button. Once you click it, you'll see a picture of our little area of space and a desired destination field just waiting for you to enter where we want to go so that the navigation computer can tell us where we need to point our ship so that we can get there. Let's go ahead and type in Jupiter for our desired destination. You can type that in the empty field beneath desired destination. Once that's typed in, go ahead and click Calculate Coordinates. You'll see the computer touch several locations, trying to triangulate where we're headed. And then we'll get a course that shows up on the right-hand side. We now know where we need to point our vessel. We're going to change gears here for just a moment and come back to this. Let's go ahead and go over to the thrusters screen. Remember, you can access your different screens by moving the mouse to the left-hand side and choosing it from your menu. You'll notice an image of our ship in the center of this screen, as well as two circles, one for direction and one for rotation, as well as some sliders beneath them. You'll also notice 3 dials at the bottom for yaw, pitch, and roll. Let's start talking about the directional thrusters, or the circle that says direction on top. These thrusters allow you to move the ship in the direction you select. You drag the circle in the middle like it's a joystick and drag it to the different directions you want the ship to move. If you wanted to move the ship forward, for instance, you'd push that throttle up to forward. You'll notice that when you do that, you get an arrow in the front of the ship. Go ahead and do that now. You'll notice that there are multiple directional arrows. Starboard would move the ship to the right, port to the left, forward, reverse to the rear, and then you have up and down thrusters that would move the ship up or down. Depending on where we are in space, we can select which thruster we need. On the other side, we have our rotational controls. Pitch will change the way the nose of the ship orients, either up or down. Go ahead and hit pitch up. You'll notice that the ship's nose is now moving upwards. If you hit pitch down, the ship's nose will move downwards. Roll will affect the direction of the ship and the way that it rolls. Rolling right or starboard moves our ship in a roll to the right, left to the left. It sounds obvious, but I just want to make sure you understand. Yaw will affect the direction, left or right, that the nose moves. You can use all of these thrusters to help dodge weapons in a firefight and make the ship harder to lock onto. Remember how we calculated a course before, and it gave us a yaw, pitch, and roll value on the right-hand side of the course calculation screen? Those values are represented by the red lines on the yaw, pitch, and roll dials at the bottom of the screen. In order to get our ship pointed in the right direction to Jupiter, we'll need to match those values up. Where we are currently pointed is represented by the yellow lines. Let's adjust the yaw, pitch, and roll to align our yellow lines with the red required lines. Our yaw value from the last screen is 348 degrees. Right now, our yaw value should be 0. That shows beneath the dials in the middle of the screen. Since we're trying to align at 348 degrees, we need to realize that there are 360 degrees in a circle. If we fire the port yaw thruster, we'll move down from 360 degrees. And if we fire the starboard yaw thruster, we'll move up from 0 degrees. Since we're trying to align at 348, let's fire the yaw thrusters to the port side and align our dial with the red line. and hit 348 degrees. You can also see that number beneath the dials. You can always check the coordinates by going back to the course calculation screen. Go ahead and use the yaw, pitch, and roll thrusters to align our course so that our ship is pointed in the right direction for a journey to Jupiter. Pause your training until you've completed this task. Good work. Be aware that sometimes Meredith will announce that manual navigation is required. That means that you are going to have to steer the vessel using the directional thrusters. Make sure you understand how they work and the directions that you can go. If you don't understand this, you should ask for help, as it is very important to your job aboard this ship. Now let's shift gears and look at the con station. We're going to start with the fusion drive control screen. Go ahead and select that out of the left menu. Voyager has two types of engines. Our first engine is called the fusion drive, or the fusion engine. The fusion drive uses a fusion reaction to propel our ship forward. The speed we move is determined by how heavy the fusion reaction is. If we use 1/4 fusion reaction, we move it at about 18,700 kilometers a second. If you weren't inside of a starship and were back in Utah, that's about the distance from Salt Lake to the coast of San Francisco in about 1 second. That's a crazy fast speed on Earth, but in space is a relatively small distance. You'd want to use a speed appropriate to what you're doing, so that's why there are varying speeds of fusion reaction. If you're navigating an asteroid field, you may want to only use thrusters. But if you're moving through an Oort cloud, you may want to use 1/4 fusion reaction to propel you through quickly so that the rotation of the Oort cloud doesn't get you caught inside. You'll notice as well that the fusion drive only has the green bar across the 1/4 fusion reaction speed at the top right now where it says 0.25. That means that if you wanted to go faster, we'd have to request more power from the operations officer or officers. They sit to your right at the last two computers. For now, simply click the 1/4 fusion reaction button to spool up the engine and begin to propel the ship forward. You could also click the numbers across the top, the 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1, as long as they are highlighted green. Remember, if they are not highlighted green, you do not currently have enough power to move at that speed. Once the engine is spooled, you'll notice that over on the right-hand side, the system begins to heat up. We use coolant to flush through the engine to keep the heat from getting so hot that the engine overheats and explodes. To flush coolant through the system, simply click and hold the coolant button, and it will lower the heat as it cycles through the engine. If you ever run out of coolant, you can ask the operations officers for more. Lastly, to stop the ship, simply click the full stop button. You can also use this button if you're using your thrusters and want to stop. Remember, in space, you will continue moving in a direction until you reverse that speed to stop your vessel. Before we switch over to the next screen, let me talk a little bit about the jump drive engine. Our jump drive creates an artificial wormhole that allows our ship to move into hyperspace. Without getting too technological and scientific, I do want to mention that hyperspace is a secondary plane beneath normal space. To illustrate this, think of it like a submarine diving in the water. Normal space has us on top of the water. When we activate our jump drive, it will create an artificial wormhole and a bubble that will allow our ship to dive into hyperspace. In our submarine analogy, think of the bubble that forms as the hull, which is the metal around the submarine that keeps the water out and the oxygen in. Our bubble will keep us safe as we dive into the hyperspace plane. In order for our ship to punch through normal space, akin to a submarine diving, we need to be at our maximum sublight speed velocity. That means that we'd need to be moving at full fusion reaction before we can punch that hole and dive into hyperspace. So let's imagine for now that you just clicked the full fusion reaction button and our vessel is now moving at that speed. We obviously can't do that right now because we don't have enough power, but we can use our imagination. Let's now go to the jump drive screen by moving over to the menu on the left-hand side and selecting the jump drive control button. On this screen, you'll notice that it shows a circle around our ship. This represents the bubble I was speaking about earlier. On the left-hand side, you'll notice a slider, and on the right, a stress indicator. Our typical envelope size for traveling in hyperspace is what we call ENV2 or ENV2. Move the slider down to 2 and then hit the activate button. If our ship was not moving at the proper speed, this wouldn't actually activate the jump drive. However, because in our fictional world we are, our jump drive is now active. This activates the bubble, opens the wormhole, and allows our ship to jump into hyperspace. Our vessel would now be moving faster than light. Speed is not constant when the bubble is active, but you can change our speed by using the fusion reaction engines to accelerate or decelerate. Generally, after our bubble is activated, it is recommended to slow the ship to 1/4 fusion reaction speed so that you can navigate the area as needed and not be moving too quickly and have no recourse to speed up. Unless, of course, you're running like mad to escape something, slowing down to 1/4 fusion reaction is a good idea. Something else that's important to understand here is that the smaller the bubble, the closer hyperspace is to the ship, and that's very dangerous for us. Think again about the submarine analogy. If the submarine was punctured, its hull, water would begin to fill the ship. The crew would most likely drown unless they were able to surface and evacuate. Our bubble is keeping that plane of space away from us. We are not compatible with it. So, the bubble needs to keep hyperspace out. Realize that the closer the bubble is to the ship, the less that's happening, and an error could be fatal for us. If our vessel was exposed to actual hyperspace, it would be crunched into something smaller than an atom. Realize that our standard travel size is ENV2 for a reason. It keeps us from being in contact with hyperspace. The only reason that you would use ENV1 is if we didn't have enough power to use any other envelope setting, but needed to get into hyperspace for an emergency reason. You'll also notice that you can increase the envelope size to ENV6. ENV6 is an incredible distance away from the vessel, and the only reason that we would do this is if we were trying to bring a ship into hyperspace with us to outrun something or get back to starbase or something similar. Essentially, maintaining the bubble at that size would only be for having somebody else inside with us. If our bubble is ever punctured, we would die instantly. It's important that you monitor this. You'll notice that as I've been talking, the bubble has slowly turned red and the stress is increasing. It may even be all the way to the top. This is bad. If this were to happen outside of training and in real life, the envelope would rupture and we'd be crunched. The only thing that protects us from hyperspace, I'd like to repeat, is this bubble. So let's focus on the stress. This means that the bubble is going to fail and that we need to fix that ASAP. The edges of the bubble have turned red or are now dark, meaning that the bubble has failed. Because we're in training, though, we have a chance to fix this. You'll notice at the bottom you have power adjustment tools. We have 15 available power right now. You can see that where it says power available. We are only using 8. The green boxes represent 1 point of power each. Let's put the remaining 7 points of power into all of the sections and then decrease the bubble's size slightly. You'll notice that the envelope stress is beginning to decrease and that the bubble color is changing back to blue. Blue is good, yellow is warning, and red is really, really bad. Your job is to get power where the envelope starts to fail. You can either ask the operations officers for more power, or you can pull power from another section that is showing blue. Keeping the bubble in the blue is the best option. Remember, you can always decrease the size of the bubble if you don't have enough power, but that is more dangerous. One more thing I'd like you to try. Take all of the power out of the aft section and then move the slider up to envelope 2.5. You'll notice that the aft section is going to slowly discolor and show red. I just wanted you to see what this looks like so that you understand what it looks like when the integrity of a section is beginning to decrease. We want to make sure that we either get more power or a smaller envelope size to reintegritize sections of this bubble. Very lastly, if you, on either computer or both of you, select the library information screen, you can see many entries on many different topics. These topics also have categories that you are welcome to research if you wish and have time. Remember that this should never take over your primary responsibilities. This is a great place to gather information about known alien races, technology, or governmental structure. This concludes your training. I hope you understand how important your responsibilities on this ship are. You are part of a team in charge of the roughly 2,100 lives on your ship. If there is anything you don't understand, make sure you get clarification on it now. You may raise your hand, and a staff member will come and grab your training equipment from you. Good luck.